Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of AppSec 101. My name is Andrew Garrett, and I work in product marketing here at Fortify. And I am pleased to be joined today by Martin Knobloch. And Martin, this is the first time we've had you on one of these episodes, but it's great to have you on. You're a global AppSec strategist here at CyberRes, and a longtime security leader with more than 15 years of experience in the field. And Martin has a background in software development and architecture. His focus is on software security. And the reason I'm so excited to have Martin here for our discussion about OWASP today is because you are actively involved in OWASP, and you're a frequent contributor to various projects and initiatives, as well as a member of the board of directors. So, Martin, your background speaks for itself. So happy to have you on.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, for having me.
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about OWASP today, and specifically the OWASP Top 10. And recently, just within the last couple of months, there is a new OWASP Top 10 that was rolled out for 2021. So we're very excited to dive into that today and to break that down. Could you give us a little background on what is the OWASP Top 10?
Andrew, thank you for asking this because I have seen that many times. And what I do in conferences, I kind of tease people and ask them who knows about OWASP, and then ask who knows about OWASP Top 10, and ask them who is OWASP Top 10 compliant, and you still see hands raising up. But there is no such thing as OWASP compliancy. Definitely not OWASP Top 10 compliancy. And that's actually, I always say it's our blessing and our curse for OWASP, because the blessing for the name knowledge is our visibility we have received because of the OWASP Top 10, but also the curse because it's the most abused project we have. Unfortunately, OWASP Top 10 has been abused to be a checklist. And of course, it's a top 10. A top 10 never can be a checklist, let alone it's definitely not a compliance guidance, right? OWASP is not a compliance standard. It's not a standard body or for anything. So the OWASP Top 10 actually 2003 has been created first time about the most common vulnerabilities. And the same was then continued 2004 and 7. And after 2007, we had like a 3 years release cycle. But in 2008, OWASP changed the mission statement. First, because we are IT people, was very black and white. We are finding and fighting of course of unsecure software, eliminating all cause of unsecure software. But we got smarter, like in the first 10 years. So we know that it's about the business, and we had to teach the business, to tell them what are the risks according to software vulnerabilities. So the OWASP 10 changed with the change of the mission statement. So the mission statement changed towards making the risk visible so that business can take the right decision. So the OWASP 10 in 2010, 13, and 17, and also 2010 and 2021, it's about the risk and not about vulnerabilities. So there's not a vulnerability checklist. It's about things you should do to increase your software security. It's an awareness document. It's not a compliance document. It's an awareness document to tell you what you should address when you start, when you pick up. And that's actually very clear described on the website, but nobody ever reads the manual, right?
Right, exactly. So I'm glad you brought that up because it is an awareness document. That there is no way to be technically compliant with the OWASP Top 10, like you said, but it is a great starting point, as you mentioned. And since 2017, we've had this list of top 10. Now in 2021, we have the new edition. So let's talk about some of those new additions to the OWASP Top 10. What stands out from this new list?
One thing is new. One is the security misconfiguration, and I think that's a very big one. So what this doesn't mean. So actually, we know now these days software is not about the code to rewrite. It goes further, and we have infrastructure as code. We have configuration files for your Kubernetes or container environment your applications running in. It's much more the configuration of your application and the software context that becomes more and more important. So that's one of the newcomers, the insecure configuration. Sorry. Then let me see. The other one is the As I can see, the software data integrity failures. And that's a kind of an interesting one when you look for security, because what is a data integrity? And actually, it goes wider than only your software integrity, but there are also your build pipeline and your dependencies. We know the software composition analysis. So what is integrity? The trust you put in the third-party libraries. Are those the ones that you want to import? Or maybe there are some vulnerability injected in there. And last but not least, the third one is the server-side request forgery, the SC serve. So we had the cross-site request forgery in the past. Now it's a server-side request forgery, because what server-side request actions I can manipulate. I think that the attendance is not only front-end forgeries, but also what happens when I do that on the server side. So it's a logical one. And then you also see that the variations now in the OWASP 10. You look, security misconfiguration is definitely like this DevOps environment. So the ops people more addressed that, have you configured your build pipeline and your application right? But he said then the software and data integrity failure. So it's have you what you import and your expectations in the integrity on your own software and a third party are not so much vulnerabilities as real still high risk, and server-side request forgery actually is a vulnerability that causes a risk. So there's much more losing the straight line from this is just a technical problem. It's also a configuration problem. It's a maturity problem you want to address.
So Martin, we've talked about some of the new additions to the OWASP top 10. Now beforehand, you and I were talking and you mentioned that nothing has dropped off the list necessarily, but there are some reconfigurations to the list. So could you expound on that a little bit?
Yes, you see that something moved. For example, we had always let's see, injection flow we had in the past. We still have them, but now the cross-site scripting is also put towards the category injection. So it's kind of injecting a script. It's not so much what we said in the past when you have SQL injection as an LDAP injection as an example for injection flaws, because it gets still the layered attack, because you're not taking the application, but the way how application interacts with a middleware system. Now we have also the cross-site scripting has been added to the injection flaws. The other one is then also that insecure deserialization is actually a part of the I call it a software data integrity failure. So yes, the insecure deserialization is another failure of the integrity expectation of security of your software.
Okay, so we have some items on the OWASP top 10 that used to be their own category that have now been combined into other categories. Is that correct?
Yeah, so something have added to a category, other have been more collected. Some
Okay.
things just have been renamed, kind of to make it more clear as we had in the past.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, now, Martin, I would like to put some focus on the consequences of insecure software and the associated risks. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Oh, that's a big one, because yeah, everything these days runs on software, right? Whatever you look, if you look around yourself, it's your laptop in front of you, your speakers. It's not just the electronics. It's all software in it. It's your mobile phone. Whenever you do banking, when you book a hotel, or when you go shopping, your fridge is software, right? So all this expectation you put on the software, and I think that's a lesson we learn now with software development, that the quality assurance you need, definitely when you write enterprise software, the trust of business and people are put up on the software, and that has to be reliable, has to be resilient as well, so that everything you expect it to do, it has to be doing, but also it shouldn't do something anything else than it's expected done. That's the most definitely the difference with secure software or quality software. I think security is a quality attribute, but it has to be put emphasis on it, because people just assume things should work as they would do, but we have to verify that it's all really the case.
Yeah. And I like how you mentioned that the software needs to be resilient. A nice plug for cyber resilience there, cyber res. Um, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about, what can we do? When we're for developers, when they're building software, when they're creating the code, what are some things they can do as a starting point for more secure coding practices. And you mentioned the OWASP top 10 is one of these starting points. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, what you see is definitely when you look at it, you have to start somewhere. And first the problem is that we have to make security visible, the security measures, so people are aware of it. And that's the way we have DevSecOps. And what you actually want is the sec between Dev and Ops to remove, but it's to put a temporary emphasis on to see how important it is. But that's really weird enough. People think, oh, this is a not important application, so I just write software, it will be okay. And the other one is a important or banking application. Now I have to make sure there's no SQL injection in it. I should not make a difference because there's one way how we should write software. It should be the secure way. And whatever you build up on or around software is just a measure to help it. The software by itself has to be resilient, has to be robust, because everything you put around does miss the application context. And we have to, many years back when rugged software came up, I said, you never know where your piece of software will end up to. And whenever you take the measures outside of software, when the piece of software ends up on a different application, on a different environment, suddenly those measures are not taken. It's only the software itself that has to be resilient, right? Everything around that is just an extra additional thing too. So yeah, OWASP 10 is a good starting point for awareness, and that's why the frequent releases are so important, to have to change the emphasis of the OWASP 10. Like now it tries also to raise the bar, but also keep new comers in place. And that's when we started like insecure design. It's the first thing. It's an open door. Yes, design has to be secure, but to put emphasis on, think about the security of your design, not just is it beautiful, does it work, is it flashy and hip, but also how secure is it actually?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you mentioned DevSecOps, because as you mentioned, the software development lifecycle is speeding up. We have software releases that are more frequent than ever before. And sometimes security gets left out of that DevOps cycle. And we need to make sure we're not leaving out the sec in DevSecOps, because it is critical. And as you mentioned, it shouldn't vary from application to application. We need to have this security mindset that is constant in any build cycle.
Yeah, there are two analogies I used to use, and one is when you're changing tires, right? You have your torque to put on the tires on the right strength, the bolts on your tires. If you do it at home, your car does an average speed of, I think in the US, it's like 70 miles. So they don't have to be too secure. So you can do it by hand, but it's better to do it with a torque. But then when you do a racing car, there's different force on it. But it doesn't mean that the racing car tire is more important than the regular car, because this can be devastating. So it's just the number of the level of verification we do is different, depending on the application. But it's not the way how we should do stuff. I think that's one part. And the other thing is that I see out there now DevOps comes in, and it's based on Agile and CI/CD. So we have all these measures, and one very important one on DevOps is the responsiveness. So nothing else is not developed more to respond to the feedback from the field, because whatever we deploy now, and we think it should be secure today, can be proven insecure tomorrow. And the response of DevOps and actually enables DevSecOps, because we can respond of the changing knowledge about our software we deployed yesterday, and we can fix it and change it and improve it tomorrow. So that's very important. So DevOps is the most secure way because the agility and the ability to fix it.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, Martin, to wrap things up, let's leave our viewers with some recommendations on some solutions. Do you have any solutions in your experience that you have found to be valuable in terms of, DevSecOps, shifting left, and as as we talked about, abiding by the OWASP top 10?
Yeah, what you see is OWASP 10 is a good starting point, and definitely what you need is the basic of software maturity, software quality. And one of the basic of quality is the quality assurance. And I think quality security assurance is part of that. So where Fortify tooling, for example, or whatever tool you use, it in the past has been a security tool. It should become a developer tool. You see that with our portfolio. So in the past, it was security leaks behind development, definitely now with DevOps. and having tools that are much more agile and developer driven and can be operated by developers improves the security. Because it's writing a software, I always compared it with writing a book or a story. When you have your text editor, you don't want the book to be finished and published until you can verify if there are any flaws in your story, right? And the same for software development. The moment I type, I want to have the feedback. Do you have made spelling mistakes? Like in your favorite text editors, right? Is there some grammar mistake? Like the file level or sentence level function feedback. And the same what you want as a developer. You're writing code in your IDE, you want to have early feedback. And if I have to do something wrong, I don't understand it. Like you have done a grammar sentence, you thought it would be right. Help me to improve it. That's what you need in your IDE. And when you then, before you upload it, you want to have this coffee break check. This like very quick check. Like you have a coffee, come back, and you must have first results. So it's not this one monolith half year or annual security check. It's a constant checking. Like the CI/CD helps you with that, and we have tooling for that to help you to make it more useful. And it's a developer tool, right? It's not a security tool. It just shows you how bad your software is because when you find something, but it's a developer tool to improve your skills.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Taking this mindset of these tools are helping you to improve. They're helping you to become a better developer. And I, for one, can appreciate the fact that Fortify tools now with the integrations, with the speed of the scans. I mean, the scans are so much faster than they used to be. So now you're not having to put off security until the end, right before the release, but you can have it integrated in to your build cycle. And like you said, you take a short coffee break, you run a scan, and it's not taking you, hours. It's just taking a matter of minutes. So definitely worth the effort.
Yeah, it's not one. You need a collection of things, collection of information, right? I heard the stories about SAST fires, STARS fires, IS. It's not one first the other. And what's very important when you use IS, you need a very mature software testing setup before you can use IS code. You have to have something where you deploy to before you can test. And yes, find everything in SaaS, but it's not a problem when you automate it and do it frequently, right? I think many years already Fortify says scan fast and scan often.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, with the automation and the integration, there's really no excuse. Like you said, scan early, scan often, and your app in the end will be more successful. You won't have to go back and spend time doing rework, and which obviously costs time and money. So, well, Martin, thanks again for joining me on this episode today. We started talking about the OWASP top 10. We also mentioned some advice and some best practices on DevSecOps. So I appreciate that. And do you have any final words, any last words you would like to leave with our viewers today?
Just keep improving. The code you wrote today, tomorrow it will be bad code, and that means you improve. So it's no problem. Just get better every day.
That's great. Well said. Well, thanks again, Martin. To our viewers, if you haven't already subscribed to Fortify Unplugged, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. We were very excited recently to eclipse the 2,500 subscriber mark. So thanks to all of our viewers out there. Make sure to give this video a like and also leave a comment down below, or if you have a question for Martin, please leave that question down below as well, and we will reply back to you. So thanks. We'll see you next time on another episode of AppSec 101.
Right.